Merry New Year!
Happy New Year. In this country, we say Happy New Year.
Ha 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 ha! Thank you for correcting my English, which stinks.
Mike Seibert Radio. We're about to start the show. We talk about stuff and things. Lots of guests in-depth interviewing. Mike Seibert Radio. It's nobody's favorite show. Movies, comics, video games, and TV. And we also can guarantee that it's not gonna be that funny. But that's okay because the show is free. So crank the volume in your headphones. The podcast at last is starting. It's time for Mike Seibert Radio.
Hey, welcome back to Mike Seibert Radio. I am your host, and as you heard Eddie Murphy in Trading Places earlier, Merry New Year to you and yours. Happy 2025, and I'm hoping that the year is treating you as well as it's treating me so far. I'm not generally one for New Year's resolutions, and in fact, over the last several years and probably a good chunk of my adult life, I've kind of rejected the notion and share postmodern memes like, New Year, same me, that kind of thing. But I don't know about you, but 2024 was a challenging year. And I, without making this a full-on existential dreadcast, which I've considered doing, but I don't think I'm going to do that here. I'm just going to talk about movies for a few. I discovered in 2024, I was really starting to lose a sense of self. Like as I got towards the end of the year and kind of doing those reflections, which includes, being thankful and having gratitude and that type of thing. Talked about all this around Thanksgiving and Christmas. But as I looked over my shoulder as the year ended, it was just like, what am I doing with myself? I'm, not happy. The things that have brought me happiness haven't been, or at least in the ways that I would want them. And it's like, oh man, what do I need to do to make these things better? And without going off on some weird philosophical esoteric kick, I just looked in the mirror and I realized that a lot of my problems begin and end with myself. And I don't know. It's right now, it's no more complicated than waking up on Wednesday, on New Year's Day, with a very simple mission. You saw me post it on Facebook and Twitter, maybe Blue Sky as well. I don't remember if I actually posted it there or not, but it's Operation : Don't Be an Asshole. And that's, I am kind of entertained by the amount of folks that have seen that and commented on that and said, whoops, well, I didn't do that. I failed in that mission an hour ago, that kind of thing. But really, that is a mission statement to myself, to how I am going to try to conduct myself in 2025, because that loss of sense of self that I've referred to is like, I've gotten colder, I've gotten harder. I'm quicker to temper. I'm quicker to anger. And quite frankly, to the folks that I love the most in my life, I've been a real shithead to. And I just, I don't know. I woke up and I just had enough. And I'm just like, I just need to do something different. So I have been more conscientious of what I say and how I conduct myself. And really all under the umbrella of, have you tried not being an asshole? That kind of thing. So we'll see how far I go and how far this carries me. But I'm recording this on Thursday the 2nd, and so far so good. I feel like I have a little bit of a spring in my step, and Yeah, so I don't know if that information is at all helpful to you, but I know I've shared some of my journey with you, and just trying something different. So maybe not new year, new me, but more kind of like new year, old me, kind of going back to the old me. I don't know. But anyway, hey, welcome to the show. And today I am going to go over some of my top 10 movies and kind of a best of type of list. And actually, I'm going to say a little bit of something about every movie that I saw this year. 2024, whether because of strikes and leftover COVID stuff and other myriad of production delays, was pretty thin and choices were slim. And after I consolidated my list, and basically what I do, because I had somebody ask me kind of what my methodology is basically I find a list of movies that were released in 2024. So that does include both theatrical and streaming. I do have this weird quirk, if you've known me for long enough, of I one of these days I want to write my thesis on what is even a movie, to kind of like reconcile streaming projects or like theatrical projects that became streaming projects, streaming movies that inexplicably got a theatrical release, things like that. So basically what I do is I find a list and I go through chronologically and I just put it into a spreadsheet. And from there, I just copy and paste and just kind of move things over in a Google Sheets kind of Excel doc type of thing. And once I've kind of got that, then I start ranking stuff kind of by like viewing preference. And again, I don't have a strict method, but usually what it is the movies that either affected me or that I think about or otherwise just kind of stick with me. Then I have kind of a worst of like, so the bottom comes to me very quickly. And you already know what I'm going to talk about at the bottom. It's kind of one of those things that's so perfunctory, I may as well not even do it. But I haven't done any Sony Spider-Man movies on the podcast recently, so I figure I owe you at least that much to say a thing or two about the end of the Sony universe of Marvel characters or whatever they ended up calling it at the end. But anyway, I like my top solidifies and my bottom solidifies, and then I just kind of like preference rank it, choice rank it, and kind of I get into this bit of like, what would I rather watch? Now, it's not perfect and it's not exact because I'll kind of contradict myself a few times as we go, but and at a certain point, I just have to stop also because, like, if I continue just like moving the things around, like what is really the difference between number 4 and number 5, or like number 6 and number 7, or number 8 and number 4? It's all just kind of the same. So anyway, I kind of create like my top list, my bottom list, and then there's the movies that I'd say like are kind of like in the neither space. The classic Mike Seibert, It's Fine. These are movies that are in the void that like I don't necessarily dislike, but I don't like them enough to include in my top 10. That type of thing. Nor do I specifically dislike them to put them in the bottom. They're just kind of like in the murky gray there. But after I went through my list, I had discovered that I had seen 23 movies. Most of them were theatrically via press screening. There's a few here that I've seen a couple times that like I saw a press screening and then Lucky and I ended up going. And then there's a few that I just saw strictly on streaming. So it's a little bit of everything, but for me, most everything was theatrical. I should also note in this point in the adventure that I am not going to talk about movies I have not seen. So these are ones that I've seen. So there's going to be some misses, some glaring misses, and some kind of like shocking omissions. Like there's, I don't know. I'm reluctant to say that this is like kind of like a, I don't know, regular person's movie list, because I got a little hoity in my toity, and I'm not so much of wearing a funny hat and calling movies films, but I feel like I can hang with some film discourse. But my point being is, like, the last movie I saw in theaters was Kraven the Hunter. So no Nosferatu for me. I'm not really interested in the filmography of Robert Eggers, the director, as just stuff I'm just not interested in it. So it's at the top of a lot of people's best of lists, and I'm never going to watch it because, like, I don't care for that director's movies, and there just really isn't anything there for me. And I've discovered, and I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but like I'm kind of like a weird reformed horror hound. Like, I don't really watch horror movies. Like, I'll watch, like, horror adjacent movies. Like, I don't know. I mean, could it be Last Night in Soho was the last horror adjacent movie that I saw? That can't be right. I'd have to go back and research that. But I don't pursue either straight horror or even like horror adjacent. And I know I've talked about this in the podcast before. I think the special effects technology has gotten to a point where the gore is too visceral and intense and grisly for my taste. I've discovered as I've become an adult, I have a little bit of a sensitive tummy with regards to like depiction of actual violence and gore. Now, that's not to say that I don't like violent movies. I do, but I need a degree of cartoonishness with it, and that'll be kind of represented in my list as I go through. But like, I like 80s slashers. I mean, I'm a Friday the 13th guy, and there is a cartoonishness to that I appreciate. A lot of like, I appreciate like puppet work and dummy work and like, elaborate makeup effects and things like that. But again, it's like, like stuff like Saw doesn't appeal to me because like, I don't like that level of realistic gore. Even for my sensitive tummy, I don't watch, medical procedural shows. Like, I don't watch doctor shows on TV. Because like I think even like depictions of like surgery with like contemporary special effects is too realistic for my taste. I need the escape and the heightened cartoonishness that comes from that. But none of that is here or there. But I just I thought I would just kind of talk about some of the stuff that I haven't seen. There were some good ass movies that I just haven't made it to, and there are some wretched movies that I haven't bothered with. I think both on the movie and TV side, this is kind of like a low year for me. So like even when I say I saw 23 movies, you could probably go through your Netflix queue and you probably got that many notches on your belt without even thinking about stuff that you saw in the theater or on other streaming platforms. So it is kind of like a weirdly unremarkable list in a weirdly unremarkable year. But I did discover as I kind of like got things put together that there were things that surfaced that I had kind of forgotten about. And that exercise is always kind of fun. So I would think if you find something here that I talk about that you may have overlooked. Who knows? Maybe like you'll take a little bit of that Mike Seibert energy with you as you go into 2025. All right, I have rambled for entirely too much at this point. Let's get to the list. I am going to start with my best of. These movies are all recommendations from me. Some more heavy-handed, full-throated recommendations than others. But my number 10 is a premise that I really enjoy the opportunity to explore, in that, what would you ask your older self? I'm talking about a movie called My Old Ass, in which it's a kind of a coming-of-age comedy drama type of thing, where 18-year-old Elliot goes on a camping trip with her kooky friends, and they have a mushroom trip, and boom, during this trip, Aubrey Plaza shows up as a older 39-year-old version of 18-year-old Maisie Stella. And this was a movie that was kind of on my radar for a while, because I really like Aubrey Plaza. I don't know how to say that in a way that is not creepy or or otherwise, but I just like Aubrey Plaza. I think she's funny, and I really resonate with that sardonic, caustic wit that she brings to her projects. But I will confess here that I am so much of an Aubrey Plaza super fan that I actually watched the Grumpy Cat movie on Lifetime like 1.5 million years ago, back when like Grumpy Cat was still a thing, R.I.P. But Aubrey Plaza is the voice of the titular Grumpy Cat, and the movie's kind of fun. If you're into that kind of stuff, I bet you Michael Andrews would probably like the Grumpy Cat movie, because it is a Christmas movie. It's a Lifetime movie, and it hits a lot of like Christmas movie tropes. I don't know why we didn't talk about that during our Christmas episode of Two Mikes Too Furious, which incidentally, if you have not caught it, I know Christmas is over, but for Two Mikes Too Furious, our Transformers animated recap show, we jumped ahead in time in season 3. For some reason, these episodes came out in April, but Transformers Animated has a Christmas time 2-parter called Human Error, in which the Autobots get caught in Soundwave's dreamlike matrix, and they're human, the Automen. And it's a really solid Christmas 2-parter, and we had such a blast doing that as we get ready to kick off season 3 of Two Mikes Too Furious with our Transwarped extravaganza coming up. We are going to be recording that, in just a couple short weeks. Hopefully looking for a end of January release. If not, it'll be throughout February, because it's 3 episodes. And it's going to be buck wild. Can't wait to kick off our last season of Two Mikes Too Furious, talking about Transformers Animated. But I'm not talking about Transformers Animated. I'm talking about My Old Ass. No, it's as I said, it's a fun coming of age, light on its feet comedy drama type of thing, in which Aubrey Plaza plays a older version of this character Elliot, played by Maisie Stella. And one of the things that, in fact, I just recently recommended this to my buddy Chandler, because he had watched Licorice Pizza, and he had watched Licorice Pizza and said that he was in the market for coming of age romance. And I suggested My Old Ass to him, because I know we have similar sensibilities, and it's fun, it's cute, it's charming, it's and with just a dash of sci-fi element to it. Like I like stuff like The Lake House, where it's like, Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves correspond through a time traveling mailbox, that kind of thing. So this is right up my alley for that type of stuff. And I like it. It's a short 90 minutes, which is perfect for this type of movie. It is delightfully Canadian, which adds to the charm of it. And but as far as criticisms go, I will confess that I was a little disappointed by the lack of Aubrey Plaza. Like, she's on the poster. She basically has 2 scenes in the movie, and they are incredibly impactful. And she is terrific in both of them. And she does some voiceover, like, via phone call and things like that. But not enough for my taste. And if I were a little more cynical, I would almost say it's a bait and switch, because having Aubrey Plaza on the poster and in the forefront of those trailers really kind of sells it as an Aubrey Plaza movie, and it kind of isn't. The movie is not any worse for it. I think it's just kind of more the marketing than anything. And I will also say that there is a little bit of a twist, and I unfortunately, I am enough of a jaded moviegoer where I did see it coming, but even so, the resolution of that twist is truly heart-wrenching in a way that it's like, well, it got me there. That's great, and that is fine. So if you're in the mood for a quirky and shockingly progressive coming of age drama, like the one of the themes of the movie is the Elliot character, the main character, is gay. She's lesbian, and one of the things that she confronts, as one would at that age, is her sexuality, and things that she thought she knew, maybe she's not so sure of after all. And I thought that was I thought that was a pretty good storytelling. There's a character that uses they them pronouns, and you wouldn't even know it because it's one line of dialogue from one character over their shoulder as they're referring to them, and that's the type of inclusivity that I like when we're trying to be progressive, because you don't have to call attention to it. It's just there. And there is a undercurrent of progressive outlook within this movie that also doesn't have a neon sign flashing over it. Oh, hey, by the way, we're super progressive. You just pick up on it as the movie goes. But it's, like I said, it's cute, it's charming, it's definitely worth your time. Switching gears violently, my number 9 on my list is A24 Civil War, not to be confused with the Captain America Civil War, which ironically enough I just watched very recently for, I think, another podcast essay thing I think I want to do. I've landed on a very weird thing regarding my dude Tom Holland, the baby Spider-Man. Oh no, Mr. Stark. Ooh, God, gabagoo. I'm from Queens, I guess, or something. I don't know. But no, I got into an incredibly heated discussion with my buddy at work, and I told him, I was like, one of my hangups with the Marvel MCU and their version of Spider-Man is that he's just a dipshit kid who doesn't learn that powerful, important lesson about power and responsibility for 10 years and 10 movies and 6 years, or maybe it's the other way around. Basically, it's not until Spider-Man No Way Home that Tom Holland, the baby Spider-Man, learns about with great power comes great responsibility. And it's and that gives me the shits. I really don't like it. And I learned from this discussion with my buddy at work that apparently I am a bigger Spider-Man fan than I realize, and more than that, I'm a big fan of Uncle Ben, I guess. Uncle Ben must be my favorite Marvel character because like I was getting like red in the face talking about the biggest deficiency of Tom Holland, the baby Spider-Man of the MCU, is that he doesn't have Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben doesn't exist, and the movies make it a point to give him so much of an anti-origin story that it I don't know, it bothers me. Now my friend has posited that I just don't like the performance, and I don't know if that's true or not. I really have to reappraise it. But yeah, so I'm going to sit through and I'm going to watch these movies again. From like Civil War to Homecoming to Infinity War, Endgame, Far From Home. Far From Home. That's the second one. Oh, that movie sucks. And then rounding out with a No Way Home, just to see where my confirmation bias kind of is. But the thing that I discovered about going back to Captain America: Civil War, one, that movie slaps. By the way, I've been very critical of it over the years because of the episodic nature of it, and that it's not a Captain America sequel. Like that's my problem with these sub-series within the Marvel movies is like you can't watch Captain America: The Winter Soldier and then go watch, Captain America: Civil War. It's like it makes no goddamn sense. There's a little bit of connective tissue, but not a lot. It's basically it's Avengers 2.5, that kind of thing. But the thing that I discovered is like there isn't as much of the stuff that bothers me about Spider-Man in that movie than I remembered. Like he even tells Tony Stark something about like, well, if you have the opportunity to help and you don't, what happens next is kind of on you. So it's like, I mean, my criticism at the time is like, we're doing pretzels to avoid saying with great power comes great responsibility, which again, really, really, really bothers me. But like I said, I think I kind of want to go on this journey and maybe do a podcast where I kind of break down some of my biases and see if going back to those movies is if it's a nostalgia buster, if I was wrong the whole time, that kind of thing. That is not the movie that I'm talking about. At number 9, A24's Civil War. And I put this on my list because as I was going through the list of movies that were released this year, I remembered how this movie kind of stuck with me. And while I think the performances are excellent, I think leather-faced Kirsten Dunst is terrific as a jaded photojournalist. I think for me, what really stuck out is the sound design. I can't remember a time in a movie where I've been genuinely startled by gunfire. And the press screening was in IMAX, and I haven't been back to the movie, so I don't know if that translates on television. But I would imagine, like in headphones or like whatever, it would have that same startling pop. Like again, I watch action movies, and if you can make jump scares out of gunshots, that's an accomplishment. But I probably dislike this movie more than I like it, but why is it on my list then? Because it stuck with me and it provoked a lot of conversation. And that was something I was kind of critical about at the time. I was like, this concept is flimsy. Like, it's written and directed by Alex Garland, who's a Brit. He's British. And so it's kind of his commentary on not necessarily American politics, but like American society and where he thinks things might go. Going into this movie, it was kind of marketed and sold as like a what if type of thing. And when you get into the movie, it really kind of isn't. It's just kind of like it's the backdrop for which to tell this story about journalism, about photographers, about reporters, and that in itself does kind of resonate with me. And I think the movie is a series of vignettes and almost like skits that Alex Garland wanted to do and to present, and has like a flimsy shoestring of a plot to string things along and keep things as linear and coherent as possible. It's plot-wise, a lot of the stuff doesn't make any sense, and it's one of those things where if you think about it too long, it falls apart very quickly, structurally and story-wise. Like, it's interesting from both sides of the political spectrum. Like, the right was coming out and saying, like, oh, man, this is like an anti-Trump movie. And, like, the left was coming out and saying, oh, man, this is an anti-Trump movie. And unfortunately, it kind of isn't. My biggest criticism of this movie is that it is so apolitical that it doesn't take a stance on anything and doesn't say anything about anything. Now, again, there are some electrifying moments, like the Jesse Plemons sequence, where you've probably seen the memes of, like, what kind of Americans are you? That kind of thing. That whole sequence is riveting. And I remember being in the theater with, a combination of press people as well as just moviegoers, fans as well. And you could hear a pin drop through that entire sequence. And it's experiences like that I will always advocate for going to the movies with people, because they're like these intangible community experiences, these communal experiences that you can only have by going to the movies with other people, with strangers, with people you don't even know, to where you can all have like this shared experience as the movie immerses you. But it is thin. This movie is light on plot, incredibly contrived. Like, for example, it posits that there is an alliance between Texas and California, and basically that is kind of like this rogue faction or coalition to either overthrow the government or take back the government. Again, it makes it incredibly unclear. Nick Offerman is the president, who you would think would be kind of like a Trump analog, and he kind of isn't. He's good, don't get me wrong, but like they don't specify whether he's a Republican or a Democrat, or like what the politics even are in this near future. The movie doesn't really seem to care about those questions. And for me, being a fan of sci-fi and genre and those types of stories, that side of my brain was itching the entire time. It's like, and they make it a point to not explain anything. It doesn't say how the titular Civil War started. This movie kind of chronicles what could be interpreted as an end to it, but it doesn't really bother with the world building. It just kind of like throws you in the deep end. And that's fine, but I wish that it would say a little more about a little more. So anyway, that's my number 9, A24's Civil War. My number 8 is Bad Boys: Ride or Die, and I threw this on my list. This was one that I'd kind of forgotten about. The movie came out in June, and it's fun as fuck. I'm sorry, I love Bad Boys. I like Bad Boys 2 maybe more than most. Did not like the third one, which I don't remember the name of off the top of my head. Oh shoot, what am I talking about? It's Bad Boys for Life. Great title, bad movie. Their mistake with that is making it a discount Fast and Furious type of franchise starter. And Bad Boys Ride or Die kind of goes back to formula, and it has like some of that like Michael Bay flavor to it, and it's back to being aggressively R-rated, both for language and violence. Joey Pants has a fun cameo in here as well. It kind of goes straight up Scream 2 there for a while, and it's a lot of fun. So if you like Bad Boys and were disappointed by the last movie, give this one a go, because it's back to formula. My number 7 is Gladiator 2. Now, this is a movie that nobody was anticipating, that nobody asked for, and arguably nobody wanted, but I had a blast with it. I am not one of those. I think this is an age thing, because we all know somebody who is disproportionately interested in Gladiator, that will give the Russell Crowe speech. He's like, oh yeah, I'm fucking Maximus whatevers. And, I'm father to a murdered son and husband to a murdered wife, and I shall have my vengeance in this life for the next, or whatever the fuck he says. The people that I've heard say that, it's like, dude, you're divorced and your kid hates you. What the fuck are you talking about? But no, it is kind of like a, I don't know, a touchstone for dude bros of a certain age. Probably the same folks who had Scarface posters in their dorms or rooms or whatever when they was in their 20s. Same type of thing. What I like about Gladiator 2 is that it's not any of those things. It kind of strips it down and tells a smaller story, arguably kind of a cheaper story. I feel like that Ridley Scott's Napoleon from last year was a proving ground, a training ground, a prototype for Gladiator 2, because there are some shots that are really cool. And nobody does spectacle like Ridley Scott, and the fights here are terrific. The fight choreography is sick. The battles are they have the grandeur that you would expect. And but for me, I'm sorry. I some folks like a royal rid. I kind of like my rid rotten. So this movie is delightfully trashy. It's weirdly lurid at times, and for me, the strength of this movie comes down to 2 words: Denzel Washington. He is just chewing up the scene like so much succulent ham. It's like he is making a feast of every line of dialogue and every scene that he's in. And it's and it's fun. It is a fun performance, and it changes the energy of the movie, because the lead, I'm not even gonna look up what he's kind of like discount Russell Crowe, and he's doing kind of he even does the voice a couple times, and it's kind of not great, but I don't knock any points off of it, because this movie knows what it is. It has a self-awareness that I greatly appreciate. And again, it is just, I've discovered in 2024 that my taste in movies is fun trash. A movie could be dog shit, but as long as it's fun and you give me something to hang on to, I will hang on to it for dear life, which ironically enough brings me to my number 6 movie, the sequel that nobody asked for, Twisters, the sequel to the 1996 disaster movie classic. And again, this movie's fun. It is the same movie, and this is weird, where it's like a sequel that exists kind of in the same universe that the first movie exists in, but it doesn't acknowledge as a sequel. None of the original characters show up, not even in cameos. And there's really no connectivity to the legacy of the first movie at all, which in a way is kind of a twist, because I see what I did there accidentally. But no, I watching the trailers and seeing the early posters, it was fascinating to me, because both Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar Jones could either or both be the children of Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton, R.I.P. So I thought it would be going into it fascinating to see like, well, which one is which, that kind of thing, and hopefully not both, because that would be that would be hashtag Lannisters, not great, but they're both fun, and while the romantic chemistry isn't really quite there on Front Street, there is enough fun flirtation energy to it. But what I like about Twisters is it kind of takes the some of the stuff that you liked from the first one and kind of ratchets it up. In fact, the movie opens incredibly strongly in that, like, it portrays, actually this is kind of like one of my favorite, I don't know, subgenres of like action adventure type of movies, where like weather can be depicted in like a horror movie context. Like this, the titular Twisters may as well be Jason Voorhees in terms of like, it's almost like a slasher in terms of like, escape and peril and dread and that type of thing, try to run from it, dread it, destiny arrives, all the same type of thing. And it creates genuine tension and some actual trauma for the characters that kind of informs their motivation. But I thought it was fun. Glenn Powell is kind of like a dipshit YouTuber, which I think has some fun commentary on influencer culture. I don't think it takes it as far as I would like it. There is some satire there. And there are some good jokes, if not a couple years behind. But regardless, being a content creator myself, it's like, I see what you're doing there. I'll allow it, that kind of thing. But also give points to David Cornsweet, the Your New Superman, shows up in kind of the Carrie Elway's role from the first. And it's kind of interesting how this movie Twisters kind of like inverts and turns inside out some of the like who's who from the first movie. It's like it's not quite the slobs versus snobs type of dynamic as that first movie, because it's like, well, wait a sec, which ones are the slobs and which ones are the snobs? Because there's some interesting role reversal there. But I was really thinking that there's a time where Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell, like they go back to like her childhood house, and there's a sequence where it's like, oh man, my mom is there and I haven't talked to my mom. It's like my mom this, my mom that, and you don't know who it is. I was halfway expecting it to be Helen Hunt, and it wasn't. It was just Maura Tierney, who was pretty good in that role. But like there was a couple times where it's like, oh man, I see what you're doing. You're trying to mess with my expectations, subverting them, if you will. But yeah, like I said, kind of fun. It's goofy. It's not particularly great, but it's a lot of fun. You could do a lot worse. But one that you would do better, and this is one where I kind of toggled back between the two, because like in a weird way they're kind of the same movie. But like my number 5 is The Fall Guy. I am a sucker for the Gauze. I likes me a Ryan Gosling. I do like an Emily Blunt, and I do like a movie about the movies. Like this is kind of like a love letter to stunts and the stunts and stunt performers. And like at one point, like the stunt crew of the movie saves the day using stunt people technology, like inflatable things and rigging and harnesses and all this other stuff. And it's a movie that's made for me and nobody else, because like there's not enough industry stuff for it to be fully interesting. But there's almost too much where it's kind of off-putting by general audiences. Lucky liked it. She liked the interplay between the leads and thought it was, fun and breezy enough. So did I. We had a great time at the Fall Guy, and I don't know. It's just I'm trying to find different adjectives other than like fun and breezy and light on its feet, but that's kind of what it is. It's like it has a throwback texture, just like Twisters does. It's like it's a throwback to the types of movies they don't make anymore, and it's fun. And one of the things that gives the edge to the Fall Guy for me is basically the movie that they're making within the movie turns out to be a Zack Snyder style movie, which I really like, which leads to a really fun cameo at the end that I won't spoil, but I gave a full throated ha when it happened. So I thought that was pretty good. So anyway, check it out, Fall Guy. It's a lot of fun. A gloriously gory fun time I had at the movies was my number 4 movie, The Beekeeper. And I am a fan of Jason Statham. Give me some of that stat ham. Give it to me now. Give it to me stat. And I was not disappointed. It's dumb. It's goofy. It's silly. But it is Jason Statham doing exactly what you want him to do. And again, with like kind of like a throwback texture, it feels like a movie from 10 years ago. In the best kind of way. A lot of the other performances are really fun. You got Jeremy Irons, you got that Hunger Games kid farting around in there. And I like the premise that basically Jason Statham is a retired assassin who is now spending his days as a beekeeper. But it turns out that the Beekeepers is actually like a super secret society of like high powered assassins. So it's like a twist on a twist, a hat on a hat type of thing. But the kills are really good. And again, Statham shines here. And you get some of that ultra violence that I like because like it's cartoonish. I mean, there's like, splashes of squibs and blood and there's a lot of computer squibs and some computer blood in there as well. But it's a cartoon, and that makes me like it that much more. The movie also gets The Beekeeper will always have a special place for me, because it's the last movie my friend Sean from work wanted to see with me. And unfortunately, he passed away before the screening. But I remember when I went to the press screening, I felt like he was with me. And I feel like he's with me whenever I talk about this movie and think about it. And when I watched it again. So, it's interesting the disproportionate value we could put on things because of like what we mean to us. I still think this movie would have been high up on my list because it is a fun, violent romp in a year that doesn't really have a whole lot going on. But I think that kind of gets it the juice for me. And probably if I thought about it for another second longer, I'd probably actually put it even higher, because even now talking to you, I'm thinking about what it meant to me. But regardless, what I put as my number 3 is Furiosa: A Mad Max Saga. This movie is not Mad Max Fury Road. It is not Mad Max Fury Road Part 2, nor is it a prequel. Well, no, it is. It is specifically a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road. But the thing, I think part of the reason why this movie did not click with audiences is because they were expecting more of the same, and this movie isn't. It's confusing to audiences. Like a lot of these movies, they don't know what to do with. Like audiences didn't know what to do with the Fall Guy, that kind of thing. And I appreciate the ambition of director George Miller continuing to have like his gonzo Mad Max vision, but it is a smaller movie in scale. I think Anya Taylor-Joy crushes it as the titular Furiosa. Like there's a lot of Charlize Theron in that performance, but because Anya Taylor-Joy has a very distinctive look with like her giant Martian-looking eyes and all that, she has an unsettling presence that I think you need and want from this character, which is really just like an engine of vengeance personified. And there's precious little dialogue in this movie. Like, I mean, I don't know, maybe Furiosa speaks maybe 10 lines, something like that. Maybe a little more, but still, it's not a lot. And anytime she speaks, it has impact. And, George Miller has said that, he would like to make these movies as silent movies and black and white movies, which is odd. If you want to have a different type of experience, watch the Blood and Chrome version of Mad Max Fury Road. And basically what it is it's Mad Max Fury Road in black and white. But like the thing that I like about it is it's not just turning the color off. I can tell that they've messed with the contrast in scene by scene to really make the blacks gooey and inky and the whites just bleached. It is an interesting bit of filmmaking, and George Miller says, like, if you turn the sound off, you should be able to follow the movie just through the visual language of the movie. I have not tried that experiment yet, but I like that Blood and Chrome more than most folks, which to some fans is kind of a turnoff, because one of the things that was so revolutionary about Mad Max Fury Road is the use of color. The overly saturated turquoise skies, and the pinks and the colors from the flares, and the depth of the color in the fire and things like that. And Furiosa does a lot of that here too. In fact, that they even crank it up even more so in certain sequences. Chris Hemsworth steals the show. Like, he's I see a theme with a lot of these movies that I like, and Hemsworth is having a blast with this role. He is the warlord Dementus. He's kind of the antagonist of the movie. And you expect the character, because of like the posters and the trailers, to be, a certain type of person. But then once you watch the movie and kind of get to know this guy, he's kind of a dummy. He's not very good at being a warlord. He's kind of a hapless boob, and I kind of like it. He's kind of got, I don't know. It's almost kind of like some Cobra Commander energy to him, where he's just like, he has like all these ambitions, but he just can't get anything going. And it's the voice that Hemsworth is doing is a lot of fun as well. It's not at all grating, and it's funny because since I have to specify that, it's like, well, what do you mean? Well, it's a choice that he does. I found it to be endearing. Others might find it grating, but the thing that I've read about this movie is that it is aggressively Australian. It is like the most Aussie movie that you'll ever see, even more so than some of the previous Mad Max stuff, because George Miller getting into his older age, he's just pushing it as far as he could go. So there's a lot of Aussie slang and a texture to it that makes it feel otherworldly, which I think is kind of fun and kind of something you want for your post-apocalyptic type of thing. It's interesting that some of these movies are like sequels and prequels and things like that, but a movie that I have dedicated no fewer than 6 hours of Mike Seibert radio to across several episodes, so I don't know how much more I need to talk about it here, But my number 2 movie, that's right, my number 2 movie is Transformers 1. I have rewatched it a couple times, and the scenes that get me still get me. I saw an essay from somebody on Blue Sky who was kind of like trying to explain why they didn't like the movie, and they explained it from like a relatively intellectual standpoint. I didn't necessarily agree with all the points, but like one of the things that they bring up is that the movie almost has too much of the same thing happening over and over, like with the amount of Magic Girl transformations. It is, you don't notice the repetition until somebody points it out. But it's interesting that also, if you look at it through the lens of they've been cranking on this movie for in one form or another for 10 years and have passed it from like writer to writer to director, and you can feel some of like those weird vestiges of hanging chads and, you know, just like leftover parts from previous iterations of the script, and a couple things that don't quite jive and don't quite make sense. I might dig up that article. I don't have it here in front of me now, and maybe elaborate on some of those points. I almost did a podcast about it, but like I've done so much Transformers 1 content, and I kind of hit a point where I was kind of tired of it, which leads me to believe that you were probably tired of it as well. But now that, you know, the movie is like done and dusted and is just, you know, available on Paramount Plus and streaming, and, you know, hopefully folks find it. I have had conversations with folks that do continue to find the movie and they like it. I still stand by all of my praise for it. I still think it's the best Transformers movie. I think it is the most approachable entry point into Transformers I think we've ever had in any media, in any context. It really kind of takes that Disney Pixar sensibility and holds your hand and introduces you to the concept of Cybertron and Transformers and the Matrix of Leadership. And the biggest criticism among fans is yet another origin story. And I hear that criticism, but I also feel like this is the most concise, distilled, consolidated version of the origin story. So sure, while I don't necessarily, I don't need to see the origins of these characters ever again, because now I feel like there's been enough definitive tellings of it to where, you know, it can just live and it's fine and it is what it is. But also, unfortunately, for like a theatrical release type of thing, I kind of reject the notion of like, oh, well, they should do More Than Meets the Eye. Oh, they should do Lost Light. Oh, they should do Target 2006. And I'm just like, are you crazy? I put out a theory, or did I talk about this on the live stream? I don't think I did. Maybe it was on Twitter. My stance on future Transformers projects, because like, you know, Earthspark has kind of petered out. Transformers 1 may or may not get a sequel. And quite frankly, here's a hot take for you. I don't think Transformers 1 needs to get a sequel, because what is that movie? It's the further adventures of escalating conflict between Optimus Prime and Megatron. Like, the juice of Transformers 1 is to where you see that these guys are the best of friends, and the wedge and the rift that tears that friendship asunder to where they leave the movie as bitter enemies. The end. Because like, we know what happens. And I don't know if I just need to see more war on Cybertron. Sure, it would be kind of cool to get like a little more of a resolution to the Quintessons, and maybe something where like Optimus and Megatron have to put their differences aside and unite to combat a common foe. Sure, that's kind of fun. But like my other hot take about Transformers one, I am deeply, profoundly in love with Brian Tyree Henry's performance as D16, later Megatron. But it's because of what that character goes through and where that develops and where he starts and where he ends up. And there's so much like heartache and anguish and determination in that performance that it sells the transformation, pun intended, I suppose, so thoroughly. So how does he follow that up? By just being like a mustache twirling villain? It's like, I don't need to hear Brian Tyree Henry with the instrument that he has with his voice and his talent saying like, oh, we attacked the rocket base at sunrise, or man, we need to get the mega motivator, or whatever the fucking ruby crystals of Burma, or whatever the hell. I don't need that from that type of performance. And if it's not going to be like, nuanced, then I'm not interested. But they've already told that story. I don't need a further conflicted Megatron, because this Megatron has chosen his destiny. And I don't know. It's like in these last couple months, I've given thought to like, well, what does that look like? What does that even look like? What do we even need it for? But I think one of my other hot takes, and I've talked about this with I'll tell the story. I've talked to two different folks about my thoughts about Brian Tyree Henry specifically as Megatron, and I've talked about the systemic angst that D16 feels. I think that iteration of the character is brought to such vivid, heart-wrenching life by Brian Tyree Henry's performance. So much so to the point where I feel like that needs to be in any Megatron's future coding. I feel like Megatron should be a black guy. I think he should be coded as having, for lack of a better term, as I'm getting incredibly bashful and shy about it, and I've gotten bashful and shy about this every time, an experience that only black people can understand, that only black folks can understand. And I feel like in that performance, he gives that texture to Megatron that I didn't know he needed, that was even there. Like, oh, I was a miner, I was a gladiator, and I was a, warrior poet type of thing. No, that's, yes, all of that, but also that's a dude that has felt that societal systemic oppression. And I feel like that this performance brings that to the fore, to where like I've broken this down to two of my good friends, both of which are black, and I get very, very nervous and my voice starts to shake, and I'm like, you know what? All right, white guy Mike Seibert, spit this out. And neither of them punched me in the face, so I don't think it's as uncomfortable as a take as I think it would be. I still don't feel confident enough to type that and put it out on social media, because nuance is not something that exists in print. But I think, and please sharpshoot me on that. If you think I'm like, you're doing some like closeted racism or something like that, please set me straight. Because again, there are some issues in this life that I'm horribly ill-equipped to deal with, and one of them is systemic racism and systemic oppression. But I know when I hear it, and I hear it in the pain in Brian Tyree Henry's performance as D16 and what that character goes through. I just don't need him to be a supervillain. That voice with that role does nothing for me. So anyway, that's my number 2 is Transformers 1. And my number 1 is a movie I have talked about also in a previous episode, and I keep telling myself that I'm going to separate out that segment and publish it as a separate episode. But no other movie affected me as profoundly and as deeply. My number 1 movie of the year is Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. This is a documentary that talks about the life and times of Christopher Reeve, going from like his early acting career and ambitions to landing the iconic Superman role in the 70s and 80s, through his tragic horseback riding accident in the 90s, to ultimately his death in 2004. And I was expecting the movie to be kind of more sugar-coated and puff piece, and really maybe even with like a behind-the-scenes type of texture, like a DVD documentary featurette type of feel. And the texture that the directors bring to it, which you can hear from in actually it's probably the episode right before this. Oh my God, I just now realized that. Or no, it's the one before last. Never mind. Where I did like 2 months of podcasting in one shot. Anyway, while they are fans, they're kind of divorced from their fandom to be able to tell a unflinching at times story of Christopher Reeve's struggles later in life, and especially after the accident. And it's a movie that takes you on a journey. There is triumph, there's tragedy, there's hope, there's heartbreak, there's despair, and there's inspiration. It takes you on a full emotional journey. And I talked about this in that episode, but no movie this year, and probably no movie in a long time, has affected me so profoundly and so deeply as this. I talked about how I sat in my seat in the theater after the credits rolled, just stunned, shook, I think is the phrasing that I used, because I wasn't expecting it. And I think it's that not knowing that really kind of throws you for a wallop, for lack of a better term. So, but yeah, I've talked about the movie pretty extensively. It is now streaming on Max. So if you are a Max subscriber, and if you are in the mood for an emotional journey, one that will challenge you and is incredibly difficult at times, but again is still deeply inspirational. It's as I said, it's deeply inspirational, but also profoundly heartbreaking, and it's deeply sad in a lot of ways, and it juxtaposes those tones, those themes so deftly. There really isn't anything like it that affected me that strongly this year. So that is my top 10. So to recap briefly, my number 10, My Old Ass. Number 9, A24 Civil War. Number 8, Bad Boys: Ride or Die. Number 7, Gladiator 2. Number 6, Twisters. Number 5, The Fall Guy. And I'm going to make an on-the-fly switcheroo right here. My number 4 is now Furiosa: A Mad Max Saga, which makes my number 3, The Beekeeper. My number 2, Transformers 1. And my number 1, Superman: The Christopher Reeve story. Now, with every rose comes a thorn, and this conversation wouldn't be complete without a conversation about some of my least favorite movies of the year. I don't have a specific top 10, but I do have a few that I do specifically want to call out, and then coming up in just a minute, we'll talk about the ones trapped in the void in the neither space. But my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My number 5 worst movie of the year is Megalopolis. This is the ambitious passion project from Godfather director Francis Ford Coppola. He sold off his winemaking business to raise the capital to make this self-indulgent, overly ambitious snoozer of a movie. It's a movie that he's been wanting to make for as near as I could tell over 40 years, and the final result is weirdly unremarkable. It doesn't even have the good sense to be so bad it's good. It's just bland and flat, and the performances are bland and flat to the like some point. Some of the performances, I feel like it's a choice. Like, are you being directed to have such vapid character motivation? Is there just not anything going on there? It's I mean, there are some truly wretched performances in there, but there are also some spotlights. Like Shia LaBeouf is having a blast. And he is a ham sandwich and a half. And he, more than anybody else, knows what movie he's in and leans hard into it. And it's trashy, but damn, it's fun. Is it here this deep into the show that I can confess part of my motivation for wanting to see this movie, and I did see this movie as a bad movie mandate with my buddy from work. But Aubrey Plaza, who we talked about earlier, is in this movie, and she's a kind of like a trashy TV show host / journalist turned Lady Macbeth type character named Wow Platinum, and I like it, and I'm gonna look over here, look to my sides to make sure nobody is around. There isn't anything that saves this movie, not even the fact that you get to see her boobers. And that's even not enough to save it, but it was welcomed. So I'm going to leave it there. But no, I mean, she's great. Like, you know, she again has the sardonic wit that you expect from an Aubrey Plaza performance. She is slinky and conniving, and it's a very heavy-handed performance, and it's very hammy. And it's some fun, but like, you know, Adam Driver is just too freaking earnest for my taste. You know, Giancarlo Esposito he looks lost. He has no idea what's going on. I could describe his performance as bewildered. Like he doesn't belong in this movie. He's too good for it. But the special effects are ass. And like, it's supposed to be this like Roman fable or something like that. So like, it even says like a fable, as if like that's a way to soften the blow, because like it's fantastical. it recontextualizes New York as New Rome. Everything is all, Roman-esque. Like the cop cars say like NRPD, New Rome Police Department, but it's all in like the style of NYPD. So it's all like New York trappings and imagery kind of like grafted onto this Roman stuff. It's the other way around, actually. It's like it's New York made to look like Rome, made to look like New York. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. Adam Driver can freeze time. He is like Hot Rod, and his power is to stop the time, and it comes to nothing in the movie. At one point, he makes the titular megalopolis with the unknown substance Megalon, who was a star of everybody's favorite Godzilla movie. Godzilla versus Megalon is made famous on Mystery Science Theater 3000, the one with Jagar. But anyway, like in the climax of the movie, they're in the megalopolis, and there's like a one of the marvels of technology is like there's like this ground moving, like people mover type of thing, and you can like stand on the track and it moves you around the city. You don't even need to walk. And like the characters like Giancarlo Esposito and like his wife are just like, she steps on it, she's like, oh my, the wonders of technology, and she's like bewildered, and he's like bewildered. Oh my gosh, the ground is moving underneath you. Congratulations, you found the airport. So dumb. There is one particular sequence with John Voight that I also thought was pretty funny, and it ties into some Aubrey Plaza stuff and some Shia LaBeouf stuff. And if I were to show anybody any scene from Megalopolis and say like, I don't like this movie, but if there was anything that I could point to that's kind of fun, just type into your Google machine Megalopolis John Voight boner and just see what comes up, and it should give you a short clip of like what that movie is. And I'm not going to describe it because it's a bit of a spoiler, but it is I leaned over to my buddy, I'm like, what are we doing? Like I was oh boy, it threw me for a loop. So anyway, that's Megalopolis. Skip it unless you think you're some hoity-toity film snob or whatever. Like they showed like the American Zoetrope logo before the movie started, and I didn't do the thing I did when I saw The Flash and Christopher Reeve showed up, but I felt the urge to be like, oh fuck you. And I didn't, because like there were people there, and but anyway, that movie's real bad. My number 4 worst movie of the year is Argyle. I am off the Matthew Vaughn train. This dude has lost his mind, and it really pisses me off too, because I have a disproportionate affection and interest in Bryce Dallas Howard, and she is terrible in this movie. She is miscast. Sam Rockwell is equally terrible. Henry Cavill is terrible, and this is like basically the movie where like Bryce Dallas Howard is like a author of spy novels, and like aspects of the novel start coming to life, and hilarity ensues, and there's a twist ending that you can see. Well, it's not an ending, a twist that you see a mile and a half away, and is aggressively unbelievable. And if you like them Kingsman movies, this is more of that, but not enough of that, because this movie doesn't know what it is. So it's really just kind of nothing. It is for somebody like me who likes stylized movies. This movie is so overly stylized that it is off-putting. At one point, a character uses knives as ice skates to traverse over spilled oil in what kicks off a one of the many climactic action scenes that is overly choreographed and is real bad. It's real bad. There is a post-credit sequence that ties this movie to another franchise that makes no goddamn sense and is just like a final middle finger to the audience. I really, 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 really did not like this movie. And my bottom or top, my 3 through 1, I will just kind of talk about in one shot, because like only one of these movies I've actually talked about at length and done a post-mortem on, and I couldn't talk about my least favorite movies of the year without talking about the triptych, the elite shrine, the trilogy, if you will, of the climax of the Sony universe of Marvel characters. Of course, Venom: The Last Dance, Kraven the Hunter, and Madam Web, respectively. I think of the three, Venom: The Last Dance is the best, but it's not good. And it's the worst of the 3 Venom movies. No, it's not. That second one is worse because Woody Harrelson's in a stupid Kool-Aid wig, doing a dipshit accent. That movie's not good. What am I talking about? The only saving grace with Venom: The Last Dance is I am here for Tom Hardy doing a goofy voice. I have come around to that where I actually kind of like it and I think it's fun. There are some genuine chuckles in Venom: The Last Dance. Like, you know, it becomes like a road trip movie for a spell, and some of that is kind of fun. There are some times I laughed. There are some times I thought it was fun and funny, but then there were other times where it is confoundingly stupid, aggressively dumb, and the special effects aren't super great, and the strength of the dual role of Tom Hardy as both Venom and Eddie isn't enough to get it over the finish line. I almost moved it to the neither space. It's not in my top 10 because like any of those 10 movies I will watch in a heartbeat before Venom: The Last Dance. I haven't talked about Kraven the Hunter. I almost did an episode, and I meant to do an episode, and it's just like, you know, time and, you know, all of my lame excuses that I've been sharing with you for the past year. I didn't think I had a take hot enough to warrant carving out the time to make sure that I did it because I knew I was going to talk about it here. The movie is obviously terrible, but the thing that is kind of frustrating is like it never had a chance. And I hate to agree with the Sony CEO, but like it's two things. Two things can be true at the same time because like I remember the day I went to the press screening, that's when that first article came out that said, yep, that Kraven the Hunter is the last of the Sony Spider-Man movies that don't have Spider-Man in them, and full speed ahead on Spider-Man 4, that kind of thing. And like that drops before the movie even comes out. So just the fact that it's positioned as a lame duck from like a lame duck universe and has the stink of death on it, this movie never had a chance. In a way that I feel that Madam Web and Morbius had a chance and they squandered it, that type of thing. Kraven is not a worse movie than Madam Web. Kraven is a terrible movie and has a bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense. Like there are times where Aaron Taylor Johnson is good in the role. He certainly has the physicality. But like his powers are so ill-defined. The fact that he has powers is a bit of it's odd. It's off-putting. And the mistake that both Craven and Morbius and to a far lesser, like you have to talk about Venom in kind of like different conversations because like they're kind of incongruous with the other Spider-Man movies that don't have Spider-Man in them. But the mistake that both of those movies make is they try to build out this origin story to where the titular character is a bit of an anti-hero. But then at the very end of the very end of the very end, in the case of Morbius, less so in Craven, to inexplicably make them a villain, but to where, I mean, like literally just Craven puts on a jacket and he's like, well, I guess I'm a villain now. That kind of thing. Morbius has a run-in with Michael Keaton and decides that they need to go after Spider-Man for some reason. I would think, and I've talked about so much in my top 10 list that I love a hammy performance. And I love that Russell Crowe is in his fat guy era and just living that lifestyle. The accent is bad, the performance is terrible, and it's not hammy enough. If you give me more scenes of Russell Crowe just rooskieing it up, he's like, fumble rooski. I think maybe I would have a little more goodwill towards it because it would then at least be fun. There's no fun to be had in this movie, and that's kind of also what kind of separates it from Madam Web. Madam Web tries to be like, quippy and kind of like having some of that Marvel humor where kind of like, Dakota Johnson is supposed to be kind of like this, well, quite frankly, almost kind of like Aubrey Plaza type of person where they're like, prickly and abrasive, but you have to be like charming and affable as well. And she doesn't get there. And the other problem with Craven is that you overstuff it with all these characters that nobody asked for. D list. I mean, I don't even know what's below the D list, but like, Calypso is introduced as like a potential like sidekick / love interest for Craven, and in the comic she's basically like a voodoo priest, and they do some of that here, but not a whole lot. I think that gal just can't act. I'm sorry. Because she's really bad in this. And oh shit, she's in Megalopolis also. Playing basically the same type of character. Oh man, poor Ariana DeBose can't act. But like it's a nothing character. And you have like a bullshit knockoff version of the Rhino where like I had to look this up. They dug up Pollux Troy, Castor Troy's brother from Face Off. It's Nicolas Cage's brother from Face Off, who is the Rhino. And this dude doesn't know what movie he's in. He's like trying to do like quirky nuance type of thing. And none of it works. He looks like a Latter-day Saints Mormon missionary guy with like his short sleeve white shirt and his little backpack and that keeps like the rhino juice in it or whatever the hell. It's real stupid. But then like, just when the movie doesn't need any more lame, also ran villains, you have this cat called the Foreigner shows up, and he's real stupid. He has like hypnosis powers that just kind of amount to him counting. It's a lot of counting in this movie, and then that's just kind of it. He's like kind of like a master assassin in the comics, and he's just like a goon, just a dude. And so it's like it's a movie full of losers. The CG is especially bad. There is not a single real animal in this. You have like a lion that mauls young baby Sergei Kravinoff. Who knows what this guy's real name is? He goes by Craven the Hunter. Could it be Mr. Kravinoff? No, I don't think so. But like, you know, the lion is all computer generated. He wrestles with like a mountain lion cat thing at some point that's also aggressively CG'd. There's in the climactic battle with the rhino, there's like some I don't know if they're like buffalo or muskox or whatever they are, but regardless, they are computer generated creatures that are as I like to say, not good. So I mean, and like I told the nice lady with the clipboard, it's like, you know, and I told her, what I told her is that like the movie is astonishingly bad. Like I was shocked by how thoroughly bad it is and how unrepentantly bad it is. But there's a version of this, much like with Madame Web, just like with Morbius, there are versions of these movies that are usable. You make Morbius into a hard R vigilante, like it's the flip side of the coin of Blade. And you have like the angst of Michael Morbius, like, oh no, I need to feed on blood to live. And then he learns, like in the comics, to go after bad guys, and he becomes like an anti-hero of sorts. But like it doesn't do that. It's just Jared Leto drinking a bunch of blue juice. You know, like he's like motorboating these little like Capri Suns. It's real stupid. Likewise with Craven, one of the things that I wanted to give it up for is the fact that it is R-rated. But watching the movie, I feel that the R rating was tacked on, and it was a decision that they made later. I have no evidence to support this, but I feel like it was a post Morbius decision to where it's like, nobody's going to watch this movie later. Anyway, it's a waste of time to make it PG-13. Teenagers aren't going to go to this movie. Let's just make this for adults. Let's make it a hard R and kind of really get to like some of the violence, because really there is not a lot of language. I could probably count on one hand the instance of folks saying the F word. And there's a version of it where I don't think you can say motherfucker in a PG-13 and count as, so like one of the characters says motherfucker in a way that like should be kind of like a fist pumping fuck yeah moment, but it just isn't. It's like, oh, you're trying to be street now. That's unwelcome. that kind of thing. But like, cause it's actually like motherfucker, and it's like, did not hit right for me. But point being is like, it feels like the action sequences were intentionally like toned up, a lot of computer blood. And there is one sequence where it's Craven time and dude craves out. And some of the kills are pretty okay. There were a couple times I jumped in my seat. Like I was like, oh, is this movie actually going to do something? And then it proceeds not to after that sequence ends, which leads me to believe it was tacked on to get a R rating. That's my thesis on that. But what I told the nice lady with the clipboard is that it's so much wasted potential. And it's the same with all of these movies, or at least the three, Morbius, Madame Web, and Craven. It's like, you can make Madame Web into like a spooky, scary, psychological thing where like, her power of clairvoyance is like starting to like drive her mad, and it's like her struggle to reconcile with that and deal with it and ultimately accepting it. You skin it as like a thriller horror type of thing. Whereas with Craven, you can just make it a straight ahead revenge-o-matic, and have Craven just be a vigilante anti-hero type of thing. Like this version of Craven is not, I thought we were going to do something where, like, he's like a naturalist and a conservationist and is like, while he hunts animals, he also, like, respects them and that kind of thing. So I thought we were going to get a lot of like poacher murder. Easy for me to say, poacher murder. There you go. But like, it doesn't. There's like one sequence where he encounters some poachers, and I thought, oh, this is going to be the movie. No, he follows them to get to like the next set of bad guys that he's tracking or whatever the hell is happening. But that's what bothers me is, like, so much wasted potential. Like, you could tell a story with Kraven the Hunter where he's basically like an eco-terrorist. He's like and that's what puts him on the path to conflict with Spider-Man. And then you have him still be a violent anti-hero, but like in the way now where you have to make your villains relatable and understandable. And, you could get a real hashtag Kraven was right type of thing where he's like, I don't know, like, messing around with like oil companies or something like that. And like Spider-Man stops him. And it's like, well, Spider-Man, you might be on the wrong side type of thing. Nuance, smart writing, that kind of thing. And none of these things have it, to where it's just so flat and generic. And it ends up just kind of being nothing. It just kind of ends up being a wet fart of a poor experiment of a movie universe, which, come to find out, I'd stuck my neck out in a couple different episodes talking about, like, and I even told the nice lady with the clipboard, I was like, could you tell Sony to stop making Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man in them? Come to find out, this whole gambit, this whole experiment is the hubris of Sony, because Venom made $1 billion, and some suit thought that the lesson to be extracted from that is that, audiences want to see Spider-Man characters. They want to see Spider-Man's villains. They don't necessarily want to see Spider-Man, which is absurd. But that is kind of like the first domino that kind of takes us down this path to where we are today, after like a failed cinematic universe franchise that isn't even connected. There's literally no connectivity between Venom, Morbius, Madam Web, Kraven the Hunter. The only thing that you get, and it is the most laughable, is the Morbius post-credit scene with Michael Keaton as the Vulture, as he's like a refugee from the Marvel universe, or the MCU Marvel universe, that as a result of the Spider-Man No Way Home spell, which also put Eddie Brock Venom over in the Marvel universe for like one post-credit scene that gets resolved immediately in the beginning of Venom: The Last Dance. And it's very unsatisfying and very dumb. And it feels like Sony was afraid of using Spider-Man. Turns out, no, they weren't afraid. They just didn't think that you wanted it. And that's even worse, because that's just dumb. That is profoundly stupid. So I kind of cobbled together a couple different articles here, but like basically, Sony has faced multiple setbacks, obviously, to expand its Spider-Man universe with standalone movies. Kraven being the worst, debuting at $11 million, making the lowest opening for any Sony Spider-Man universe movie. Now, Sony CEO Tony Vinciquerra attributed the underperformance to negative press rather than the quality of the films themselves, insisting that the films were not inherently bad. I'm sure you've seen all of these grabby headlines from all these different news sites and sources, but basically this guy he's blaming the critics. He's blaming people like me, because alleging that critics had it out for these movies. And I just now realized this as I'm talking to you. I was going to go a different direction with it, but he might not be wrong, because I've told this story in a couple different contexts, but I starting with Morbius, and this is during my time at work where I have access to advanced screenings and press screenings and some media privilege. I wrote to the rep. I'm like, when is the screening for Morbius? And I got an invitation when I asked for it. And it was on a Wednesday afternoon at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I made it a point to like rearrange my schedule to make sure that I made it and that I didn't miss it. The studio wasn't going to prevent me from seeing this movie. I think that is the beginning of maybe what this guy is talking about, because the studio made it so difficult for me and it had the stink of death on it. I made it a crusade to make sure I didn't miss it. Same thing with Madam Web and with Craven. All three of those movies, I specifically pursued asking the rep. And when I talked to the nice lady with the clipboard, she told me at Craven that I was one of two people that asked about it. And it was a press-only screening. They didn't let fans or civilians into that. So there was maybe like a dozen of us in this one lonely Craven screening. And I will admit that I had it out for these movies. And for me, it was like a seeing is believing. And the title of my Craven podcast that I never did would have been, I watched Craven the Hunter so you don't have to. And again, as I said, time got away from me. And I've run into another thing. And actually, my friend Whirl has kind of helped me with this. I consume too much content that is similar to the content that I make. And if I watch like YouTube videos of people like reviewing Craven or people like talking about Craven in podcasts, I feel like I quote unquote don't have to do that content because other people have already done it. Now, the thing that I have overlooked is that you might be interested in what I have to say. And it doesn't matter if you've consumed other reviews. You kind of want to hear what I have to say about it. So one of my other resolutions or goals for 2025 here is I'm going to try to consume less content that overlaps with my own until I've done my own content. So what I should have done is made it a point to hammer out a Craven episode and then start consuming other people's commentary on it, as opposed to the other way around. Because like I said, I had seen and heard enough that it kind of sapped my motivation for wanting to do it, because I didn't feel like I had anything new or unique to bring to the conversation. But basically, like, despite owning the rights to Spider-Man and his entire universe of characters, they decided to focus on the villains rather than incorporating Spider-Man. Like, there was this article in Variety that just kind of like casually drops that. It's like, well, Sony had the rights. And it's interesting where, like, you crack it open and you could do so many different things. You don't necessarily have to use Tom Holland. You could use Andrew Garfield. He's expressed interest in wanting to be Spider-Man. And while he wasn't my favorite Spider-Man, if like he's game and these movies need a Spider-Man, why not? Whatever. Because this universe isn't anything. It may as well be Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man universe. Why not? Oh, right, because they were going to do Sinister Six in that one, and poor Avi Arad. I think that dude is going to die before there's a Sinister Six movie. Like, he was so close this time. He had, well, 2 members, I guess 3, because, I mean, there have been so many iterations of the Sinister Six. I suppose there's one that includes Venom, Morbius, and Craven. But who rounds that out? Dr. Octopus? Do you recast? Green Goblin, what are we doing? Sandman, Electro. It's like, I mean, so yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's things there, but like I don't understand why Sony and Stan Lee's bestest buddy Avi Arad has always had such a hard on for wanting to do Sinister Six, to the point where even like the post-credit scene for Amazing Spider-Man 2 is like all this bullshit sequel setup for, I mean, they even had like logos and shit. Madness. And even in Craven, there's like all this bullshit sequel setup, like, oh, I went to go see a doctor in New York. It's shut up. And of course, like being more of the comic fan, my buddy from work, he's like, is that somebody? I'm like, if it is, I don't know who, because they're being so vague. Yo, what doctor? Is he a strange doctor? Is he an octopus doctor? I don't know. I don't understand. I also saw something in Variety also. Apparently, Ariana DeBose says that she would like to see Craven square off against Spider-Man, and I don't know. I didn't realize that I was being so disproportionately harsh against this poor lady, but she in the article she quotes, she's like, there's literally a comic book about that, and even the director of Craven talks about, oh man, if Craven is successful, I'd love to do Craven's Last Hunt, obviously one of the more iconic Spider-Man stories. Bitch, do Craven's First Hunt. Fuck. It's like, what are we doing? Man, I didn't realize I was so upset about all this, but anyway, that's is that the end of my list? Oh yeah, Megalopolis, Argyle, Venom: The Last Dance, Craven the Hunter, and Madam Web. If I think about it, if provoked, maybe I will do more of this epitaph on the Marvel, Sony Marvel universe of Spider-Man characters or whatever it was. But before I close out, I do want to talk about movies that were kind of in the in-between. I call it the neither space, or they're kind of like stuck in the void. And these are unranked, so I'm just going to talk about them briefly. First and foremost, I guess the top of the bottom, if you will, is a little movie called Deadpool and Wolverine. And it probably took you an hour and a half to clock that, well, that's not in Mike's top 10. It's not in like his bottom 5. Where is this movie? And for me, it's nowhere. I barely like it. In fact, the more I think about it, the less I like it. It's I like that first Deadpool movie. I don't like that second Deadpool movie, and this one is sigh, it's fine. I like Ryan Reynolds in the role. I like Hugh Jackman in the role. He is bringing, depending upon the scene, he is either bringing the heat in a way he never has before, or he is on cruise control and snoozing. Like, I like the dialogue part of the fight in the car. And I like that scene until I don't. But like this, like Wolverine's entire speech where he, there is a way that Hugh Jackman conveys anger that is like so visceral and intense, and just like the way he like pushes the air out of his cheeks and his mouth when he taunts Deadpool there, and it's just like it's really he does some good teeth yelling, and it's a great scene. It's probably my favorite scene in the movie, in a action sequence that I don't like, and it underscores the problem with this movie. If you have two characters that are invincible, nothing matters. There is no stakes in this movie, and therefore it has no teeth. I don't know. It's fun enough to watch as a single viewing. But I think under the Disney banner, it is too sanitized and too safe, despite the violence, and the language and all of the mature content. But it's an incredibly expensive movie. It's bright, it's slick, it's polished, and all of those things that Deadpool the First isn't. You'll forget that movie cost $60 million to make. There's a grittiness, there's a scrappiness, and yes, there is a cheapness to it that all of which you will forget about. But now that makes it charming, and it kind of makes me sad from like a cynical, jaded point of view that now even something as kind of like punk rock as that first Deadpool movie that Ryan Reynolds willed into existence by doing the automatics and then allegedly leaking the test footage to YouTube and just really being a gremlin and like trying to will this project into being. I don't doubt Ryan Reynolds' sincerity. I don't. I know that he has so much love and affection for this character. It shows, and it comes through in his performance. But I think this time around, it's just a little too cute. And it's, like I said, it's too well made, for lack of a better term. It's like, I kind of like in that first Deadpool movie that there's really kind of no third act. It just kind of like falls apart at the end. But you could even see some of Ryan Reynolds' vanity coming in, like the Wade Wilson scar makeup is the slightest and gentlest it's ever been. He's barely wearing ugly guy makeup, whereas in that first movie he's pretty hideous. And it doesn't shy away from that. It's like you see a lot of Ryan Reynolds' face in Deadpool and Wolverine. And once you get past the cameos, which are fun and which are awesome, and I don't want to necessarily diminish that because there's even a line of dialogue, and I don't know how much of this stuff I want to spoil, but there's a dialogue between the legacy cameo characters about hey, finally we get to have the one thing that we never got, an ending, and there is a sweetness and sincerity to that. The Channing Tatum stuff is pretty cool, but you realize that as soon as the movie's over, as it's washed over your brain, you take a quarter step back and realize that none of it makes any goddamn sense. And that's kind of sad and a little frustrating. I wish the movie was a little smarter than to just be somehow Palpatine returned. I'm not insightful enough to go on a whole anti-Disney type of thing, but it seems like there is an inherent soullessness to their projects of late. You look at this Deadpool and Wolverine, you look at the Marvel MCU stuff, you look at their Star Wars stuff, you look at Indiana Jones, and there is a emptiness to it that's sad. And but anyway, I don't know, I don't know if it's a hot take to be some dipshit content creator saying oh well, I don't like Deadpool and Wolverine because to me that feels hoity-toity, and I don't think my criticism is hoity-toity. It's just that it feels lifeless to me. And while all that stuff is, the fun stuff, the fun set pieces and the dialogue and the cameos and all that stuff, but if you strip that away, there's nothing there, less than nothing there, and it's frustrating. Shoot, I should have put that on my worst of list I didn't realize I was as torqued up about it. Let me talk about some of the other movies in the neither space. I watched a rom-com called Fly Me to the Moon, starring Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum, about the moon landing. Was it faked or wasn't it? It's a Apple movie, so like it was made by Apple for Apple TV Plus. Got a theatrical release. That's where me and Lucky saw it. Had a blast with it. It's fun. It's got a nice 60s kitsch to it. I think both of the leads are fun. Woody Harrelson shows up as like a Mr. Nobody agent type character and choose some scenery for a few, and that's fun. But like I'll never watch it again, and it's just kind of there. It's at the end of it, it's kind of bland. And here's the other thing: there isn't necessarily anything wrong with like single serve movies. Like that's, in a way, that's almost kind of how I prefer things. Like, I talk about movies they don't make anymore, like, like legal thrillers and things like that. There was a time when you would go to the movies and just watch a movie once and never watch it again, but like you saw it in the theater, that type of thing. We don't do that kind of stuff anymore. Everything is a goddamn superhero franchise, and something is, everything is something that you go back to again and again. That type of thing. Incidentally, I should have mentioned this before with Deadpool and Wolverine. Does not hold up on rewatch. And honestly, none of those Deadpool movies do. I watched Deadpool 2 several months ago, and like the humor is so dated. It's like, oh, Cable, you're so dark. Are you from the DC universe? It's like that joke doesn't even work today. So that kind of thing. But anyway, Fly Me to the Moon, streaming movie. I think it's on Apple. It's if you're looking for like a period piece, kind of like light on its feet, moon landing adjacent rom-com, kind of a romp type of thing. It's fun. Another streaming movie, this one on Amazon, is Roadhouse. And this is another thing. It's like, what is a movie? This director Doug Liman got into a fight with the studio about like he thought it was going to be put into theaters. Instead, they gave him and Jake Gyllenhaal and God knows who else a bunch of extra money just so that they could put it on Amazon. It's the remake that doesn't need to be. It's harmless. It's fine. If it was called something other than Roadhouse, like if the title of the movie was like Jake Gyllenhaal is a MMA fighter who accidentally killed a guy, and now he's kind of like a drifter and ends up at the titular Roadhouse to defend it against like the rich industrialists who are gonna plow down the roadhouse to build an airport or something like that. And Conor McGregor shows up. That's a lengthy title, but I think it would be better than trying to skin it as a vapid, soulless remake of Roadhouse. The charm of Patrick Swayze's Roadhouse, or Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, is that it's trash. And it's fun trash. It's delightfully sleazy. This movie isn't. It's just Jake Gyllenhaal's pretty good, and keeping with the hot takes, I may have to watch the movie again. But like I thought, Conor McGregor kind of injects a lot of life into the movie, but I think it's because it's so flat and lifeless that I think I would take any kind of spice. It is kind of like Tabasco in your oatmeal. It's like the performance is, I think, a little too much. Like, Conor McGregor is doing like his, Vince McMahon walk at all times, and he's pretty obnoxious and kind of over the top. But I've made the argument to other folks I've talked to is like that's kind of what the movie needed at that particular time. So it kind of injects some life into it. But anyway, it's fine. Some of the close quarters combat is kind of okay. It's It's not bad enough to make my worst of list, but I'm never going to go back to it. A movie that I feel is, I feel bad that it's kind of in the neither space, is a movie called The Bike Riders. And this is once again Tom Hardy doing a goofy voice. That was my hook. But actually, looking at it further, this is British people doing goofy voices, because you have Tom Hardy, and you have Austin Butler, Elvis himself, and you have Jodie Comer, and they're all doing varieties of weird American voices. Like, I don't know what Tom Hardy's trying to do, but again, like, Austin Butler's trying to do something kind of like Midwestern type of thing. And Jodie Comer, like, bless her heart. Like, and actually I softened on it because I thought the performance was too much. She put a little too much mustard on it, until I heard recordings of the real life person that she's playing. And then I'm like, okay, well, it's more of an imitation of this person than it is just Comer gone wild, because it's nuts. It is bonkers how stereotypical Midwestern. It's not quite Minnesotan, but it's like it's weird. I can't even describe it very well. But basically, what this movie is it's kind of like a snapshot of motorcycle club culture right before it turned into biker culture. So like it's there's a weird innocence to the movies. To the movie, where like it's like these guys who just wanted to ride motorcycles together, and then they start gathering, then they start calling themselves a name. Next thing you know, they're a gang. I mean, like this movie kind of like, in a sanded off corners kinds of way, how like these guys were just kind of like weekend warriors who just wanted to hang out and drink and race motorcycles for themselves, accidentally become a gang. That kind of thing. So it is kind of like based on some real life stuff, but also taking some fictional liberties as well. But like, if you are expecting like a Sons of Anarchy type of gritty biker drama, this isn't it. This is kind of more of a Innocence Lost kind of snapshot of a bygone era type of thing. It's a delightful little movie. I've seen it twice. I might give it another go. But again, I don't like it enough to put on my best of list. Same thing for a movie called Monkey Man. Monkey Man is basically, it's Dev Patel, who is he's like a dishwasher by day and like a professional underground fighter by night, who wears a monkey mask, and basically he's a jobber. Like his role is to get beat up by the other higher profile talent, and he gets paid for it. But it's also a secret revenge movie where basically like he's entering this underground fighting ring to get closer to like the crime lords who did his family wrong. So it ends up kind of being a straightforward revenge movie. The combat is really good. He's actually really good, Dev Patel. There is a magnetism and a palpable angst to the performance, but the movie doesn't quite get there. It's not that it falls apart at the end, because it does have a satisfying conclusion, but it's you think that you're expecting John Wick. That's what I like. And the posters, basically the posters is like Dev Patel wearing a suit, wearing a monkey mask. And that's the movie I wanted to see, and I didn't quite get that. Not enough monkey mask. Like there's a scene in the climax where, or more or less how it kind of starts off. It's like he basically has the outfit from the poster, where it's like I think he's like knocked out like a valet or something like that. That's why he has like a suit and tie on. And then basically he puts on the monkey mask, as like a disguise, but then spoiler alert, immediately discards it. It's like he doesn't fight anybody in it. He doesn't have any presence. In fact, I don't think he's around any other characters while he's wearing the monkey mask, and that was kind of disappointing because the movie just isn't quite what I wanted it to be. Maybe that's more my fault than the movie's. It does say some cool stuff about a caste system and classism and hierarchy and it's kind of funny because like it's almost of a kind with Transformers 1. Like this guy, the titular monkey man, almost kind of has like a Megatron D16 type of uprising type of thing. I don't know if I could recommend it, but I wouldn't tell you to steer clear of it either. It's like, check it out for yourself if you're interested in a action movie that's a little different than something more traditional. There's and I just thought about this. Like there's also some real progressive ideas in there as well, because like at one point the monkey man is taken in by like a house of monks who are basically trans women that are basically being oppressed by both the government and like the crime lords and stuff. So there is a bit of like this guy is defending himself, but also the people who have taken him in. And it's one of those things where it's like kind of similar to In My Old Ass. Like you don't understand that that's what it is until the movie doesn't necessarily grab your hand and tell you that like these people are being oppressed specifically because they're trans. It's just something that like you have to figure out by like, doing your own movie math to like put two and two together. It's like, oh, okay, I see what's going on there. But it's it does have some fun action sequences, but it is sleepier than I would like. I thought that was it was good in the movie theater for like an immersive movie going experience, but watching it back at home, it's a little bit of a snoozer when the action sequences aren't popping off. A few last ones here in the neither space. Godzilla Kong: The New Empire. And this is a movie I have given no thought to since I saw it. I think the legacy of this movie for me is the title legislation. It's not Godzilla X Kong. It's not Godzilla Cross Kong. It's according to the studio rep, it's Godzilla Kong, which is so dumb. And it kind of makes me hate the movie that much more. And ironically enough, a movie that features Brian Tyree Henry in a waste of talent and just a nothing of a role. King Kong gets like a power glove at some point. And my problem with this movie is that for something called Godzilla Kong, with Godzilla being first, not a lot of Godzilla in this movie, because in Legendary, Godzilla doesn't really have much of a personality. He doesn't really do much of anything. Whereas they give all of the storyline and personality to Kong. Like, this is Kong's movie. And that's fine, shrug, I guess. Your mileage with the Legendary Monsterverse might vary. Like, I bet you if I rewatched it, I would probably appreciate it for the fun that it was. But like at the time, I was fussy and I was itchy, and it's way too long. Too many of the concepts are undercooked and not really thought through. Like I cannot give a shit about Hollow Earth. I just do not care. Does that make the movie specifically bad? No, but it's just kind of there. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. It's kind of funny that this ends up in the neither space for me, kind of cast into the void, because I talked to Michael Andrews during a Two Mikes Too Furious about the movie. He seemed to like it quite a lot. I liked it fine when I saw it, And the things that I like, I still like. I think McKenna Grace is a revelation as Egon's niece. And she has some development in her storyline that is well-intentioned. I talked about coming of age romance, and basically she falls in love with a ghost. And for me, not gay enough. It's like, if you are going to do it, then fucking do it. And it really just kind of like pulls punches. Like there's a lot of maybe some tentative hand holding and some knowing glances or something like that. Like the lesbian romance is heavily implied, but never really implicitly. And I don't mean it from a gross creeper, ooh, girls kissing. It's not that. But if you are going to tell that type of story, then do it. Or don't. But kind of having this PG-13, what about the Midwest? How are they going to react to this storyline and this progressive storyline in this Ghostbusters movie? Fuck them. Whatever. Or if you're afraid of that, then don't do it. Make the ghost a boy instead of a teenage girl. Easy. Whatever. But the scenes with Dan Aykroyd is a lot of fun. Ernie Hudson, my goodness, that dude does not age. And I genuinely love that now the Ghostbusters franchise has done right by the Winston character. I love that he's kind of like the Tony Stark of this Ghostbusters universe, and the world expands, and you find out that there's kind of like Ghostbusters Inc. type of thing, and different divisions, Ghostbusters has an engineering department where it's like the Ghostbuster, but it's a cog instead of just a circle, which when you can mess around with different iconography and imagery, I think that's pretty cool. But ultimately the movie is so overstuffed. It's got too many characters. You've got all of the Ghostbusters Afterlife characters, and you're shoehorning in the legacy characters, and nobody gets a lot to do. And it just it feels like some of those latter day 90s Batman movies where it's just you crammed in one too many villain. Does this movie need both Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze? That kind of thing. It just becomes overcrowded, and it's fine. It's fun, but overstuffed, and I don't feel the urge to go back to it. And maybe that's kind of some of the sadder part as well. And who knows where the franchise goes from there. I mean, it's I would love to see more of kind of a Ghostbuster expanded universe, maybe canonize Extreme Ghostbusters and maybe some of the other comic book stuff. And, let's, I don't know, maybe do a Ghostbusters International or something. That didn't work very well for Men in Black, but if you're going to make it a point to make the world bigger, then make the world bigger and play around in it, and not stress about what you're going to do with all of these characters that you can't give proper justice to. So then just don't try. Or do cameos or something like that. I don't know exactly what the solution is, but the main problem with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is that it's so overstuffed. It's not that it's bad. I think it's fun, but again, neither space. It goes back into the void. Same with, it looks like I'm looking over my list. This is the last movie on my neither space list. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. This is the most shrug its fine movie that I think would ever shrug its fine this year. It's fine. It picks up 300 years after War for the Planet of the Apes. So I like seeing ape society kind of progress. I won't spoil part of the end, but it's a bullshit sequel setup, and it makes me really itchy and kind of gave me the shits, unfortunately. But like all of the actual like Ape Society stuff is pretty good. And like this ape technology, like the motion capture visual effects has never been better. Like, I mean, like there at this point, there is now no difference between the computer generated creatures that inhabit this world and the real life actors around them. It's like it is so seamless. It is everything that Kraven the Hunter isn't. It's like it doesn't look fake, it doesn't look cheap, and like it's no shortage. I mean, it's phenomenal. You know, it is something truly special, a technological marvel that they keep doing again and again, and it just keeps getting better and better. But the thing that kind of frustrates me about this movie is that it didn't learn the lesson of the classic Planet of the Apes movies from the 70s. Those movies didn't have bullshit sequel setups. They ended and like, oh yeah, we're going to blow up the Planet of the Apes. Well, we want to make a sequel. Well, you know what? That's their problem. The people that are going to make the next movie. It's like, okay, well, you know, now that they've escaped from the Planet of the Apes, oh man, those apes are super dead. Now what are we going to do? And it's like every movie of that run in the 70s ends with like, oh shit, what are we going to do now? And this doesn't. This just kind of ends with like, oh, so there's just been another society that's been functioning for 300 years and everybody looks like they just stepped out of Abercrombie and Fitch. Okay, if you say so, movie, whatever. But yeah, it's like this one doesn't have the gravitas of the previous trilogy, especially Dawn and War. You know, Matt Reeves did something special with those movies, and this doesn't got the juice. It's not bad, but it's not great either. And I forgot that this movie even came out this year until I started looking at it. So anyway, so that's kind of that is. Oh my gosh, that is all 23 of the movies that I saw this year. I managed to say something about literally every movie I saw that was new this year, and a bunch of other stuff that I didn't. If you're still listening, and I don't have enough to do a TV episode, but I guess since I am here and we're here together, couple other things that kind of happened in TV. First of all, X-Men 97. Again, I not to rehash too much of what I said in the previous episode, but like it still continues to live rent free in my head. It's like I think about it, and it sticks with me. And again, watching those episodes, if not the plot, but the feeling between like, you know, the melodrama and the angst and all that made me feel like I was a teenager sitting in my room reading X-Men comics in the 90s. It's like somehow it transports me to that place and makes me feel that. And that is a gift and a magic trick. The not counterpoint or counterpart or whatever, on Amazon, there's a show called Batman Caped Crusader. And a lot of folks were saying like it's the X-Men 97 of Batman the Animated Series, and it's not. It's fine. It's ambitious, and it does something kind of cool. And basically what it is it's Batman in the 1930s. And so he has like technology of that era. And it's kind of like a cool, gritty detective noir type of thing with some 1930s versions of some of the famous villain characters. Like there's a take on Clayface that is really cool. I didn't necessarily care for the take on Harley Quinn, though I do appreciate that they were trying to do something especially particularly different. But it doesn't got the juice. It doesn't have the same juice that X-Men 97 has. It doesn't capture that feeling because it's not supposed to. It's a different project, and it's a weird project. It's like, who is this for? I understand now why, we could criticize David Zaslav from, Warner Brothers Discovery and shelving the Batgirl movie and destroying the Coyote versus Acme movie and, all of his boneheaded decisions. But one of his decisions was this Batman Cape Crusader show was initially going to be streaming on HBO Max. Now just Max. But he was just nah, you know what? Sell this off. And he was kind of right. I mean, I'm glad Amazon picked it up, and I'm glad I was able to watch it. But yeah, it's fine. But for me, it didn't quite hit the same buttons that I think it did for other folks. Your mileage may vary. I know a lot of people liked it, and called out the stylistic texture of it, but yeah, it just doesn't quite get there for me. Some other random TV stuff, it's funny because my friends pick on me for the amount of network TV that I watch, and I don't watch a lot of prestige TV, but I guess the one of the things that prestige adjacent, finally, mercifully, we got to the end of Yellowstone, and that's finally over. And it's fascinating because the last 3 episodes are actually really quite good, and they're kind of right bangers for what that show is. And I don't know. I feel like I'm running out of time. I don't know if I have my full-throated Yellowstone rant in me. I might have to do that a different time. But suffice it to say, for a show that I do not like, I feel like I'm the only person in America that does not like Yellowstone. It's too abrasive. It's too hard-hearted. And a lot of that Taylor Sheridan stuff. I like some of it, but I don't like all of it. But one of the common denominators is that it's abrasive. And I think, like I said, earlier in the show, I think my sensitivities are more soft in my old age than they were when I was younger. But my criticisms aside, I was very satisfied with the ending. I like that they tied it back in with the spin-offs, with some narration, and I like actually what happens. The actual outcome. There is one particular scene, mild spoilers, where there's a bunch of Native American teenagers, and they're just kicking over tombstones of these white people. And I was like, I don't know if I was supposed to have that kind of reaction, but I was like, fuck yeah, righteous, that kind of thing. But it has a very satisfying ending to it. The other show that ended that it was time for it to go, but on CBS, Blue Bloods ended, and I don't have much to say about it other than I was talking with my family at Christmas on Christmas morning, and my aunt and my cousin were like, yeah, it's fine, but it's not as emotional as we thought it was going to be and all of that. And they're not specifically wrong, but they're not completely right. Also, I think it stuck the landing for me and ties off a lot of character stuff. I like that most of the cast, most of the featured cast gets something to do. It does feel like an open-ended finale, which is fine. But I think this world has played out, and I think they've taken all of the concepts as far as they could go. But like, I think I like that finale way more than my family did. For every ending there is a beginning. This was also the launch of NCIS: Origins, or maybe it's just NCIS Origins. I don't know if there's a colon in there or not. This kind of follows young Mark Harmon. What is he? Austin Stowell or something like that. I'm getting really rummy here. Anyway, it's the adventures of young Leroy Jethro Gibbs as he finds his way in the NCIS organization. And the only reason I bring this show up is so that I can make this joke, and then I could get the hell out of here. It's fine. I do like that it does challenge fans to recontextualize episodes of NCIS that we've seen over the last 25 years or however long that show's been on. So it's kind of cool for that, and it kind of tells like some untold stories, kind of like things you didn't know, secret history type of stuff. It's pretty much a blank canvas though, because the thing with this Mark Harmon character Gibbs is that he's very stoic and not very giving. And that's kind of like his defining character trait, is how abrasive and prickly he is and doesn't talk about his past. So I thought it was kind of interesting that they make a show about him talking about his past. But I have to get this joke in about basically they kind of took the young Sheldon approach. And so now CBS has a proven formula for success going forward. Anytime a show ends or is nearing an end, you just go the prequel route and you get your main actor to do narration for it. So young Sheldon was kind of had interstitial narration from Jim Parsons as old Sheldon narrating for young Sheldon, and it kind of provides wraparounds. Same thing with this. You got Mark Harmon doing voiceover at the beginning and the end, snoozing through it. There is, we're talking Harrison Ford and Blade Runner level of disinterested, apathetic voiceover work. It's bad. It's downright bad, and I don't think it adds anything to it there. But what I also thought though is so you have Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, which is a prequel series to classic Star Trek, and I would like to think that what you do is you do the same thing. You have you start the episode, and then there's narration from Captain Pike, as he sets up the adventure, and then at the end he comes back. Unfortunately though, it would if they did something like that, it would sound a little something like this.
2 flashes mean no.
Because that's all he could do. He's all irradiated and charred in the wheelchair, and any Captain Pike narration to start or end episodes of Strange New Worlds would just be, yeah, boop, boop. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. One last thing. If you have not already, I do have some Christmas-themed post-holiday treats for you. If you missed it, you could check out the Christmas episode of Autopod Decepticast, where they're currently covering the Beast Wars. Friends of the show delivering retrospective of the Transformers. They're currently in season 1 of the Beast Wars. Check out their episode number 241, Spider's Game - the 2024 Holiday Extravaganza, featuring the Moondog, Greg Murray. I think he goes by Maurice now. Our wrestling friend that kind of talks about the episode Spider's Game from Beast Wars. But a certain neurotic yellow bug, voiced by somebody very familiar, makes a return, and their level and their letter to Santa Claus. So if you're a fan of that, check that out. That's a lot of fun. And then also check out the winter warm up, as we call it, the Christmas 2-pack of Christmas episodes of Two Mikes, Two Furious animated Transformers, where me and Michael Andrews talk about Transformers animated one episode at a time. And as I mentioned before, there's a holiday episode. Well, actually, no, I'm not a holiday episode. A literal Christmas episode. We called it the Mikes Before Christmas, Part 1 and Part 2, respectively, where we talk about Season 3, Episode 8 and 9, Human Error, Part 1 and Part 2, respectively, where, like, imagine, if you will, the Vince McMahon escalation meme, where it's like, it's a Christmas episode. The Autobots are humans. Soundwave is the villain. And then when you get into Part 2, you got yourself a Meanwhile on Dinobot Island, with all kinds of characters showing up you wouldn't expect. And then to close it out, you got Wreck-Gar. You got the return of Wreck-Gar. So if those things aren't enough for your Vince McMahon escalation meme, check that out. Those 2 episodes were a lot of fun. It's our winter warm-up as we get ready to kick off Season 3, which we will be doing very soon, in just a short couple weeks. In fact, actually, once I get done recording this, I am actually going to turn on my computer and I'm going to watch Part 1 of Transwarped, the one where a certain Judd Nelson returns as Rodimus. I don't know why I'm trying to hide that, because even as a first-time viewer, an episode I've never seen, I know that happens, because there are friends of mine that have been beating down our door wanting to be on that episode for the last 2 years. Let me know when you get to Transwarped. Let me know when you get to Transwarped. And everybody wants to talk about the return of Judd Nelson, and maybe there's other stuff going on in that 3-parter as well, but who could know, because that's all I seem to know. So, but anyway, make sure you're subscribed to Two Mikes, Two Furious as well, along with Mike Seibert Radio, for the return of Season 3 of Two Mikes, Two Furious animated Transformers. As for Mike Seibert Radio, that will wrap things up for this episode. Thanks for hanging out with me and for being my friend. I greatly appreciate it. Like, share, rate, and review the show. Let us know what you'd like to hear more of in the future. And holy smokes, you guys. First episode of 2025. Now begins year 10 of Mike Seibert Radio. I have no idea what I'm going to do in August to celebrate and commemorate the anniversary. I don't know if I'm going to do anything special throughout the year, but August 2015 is the beginning of this journey, which means now here in 2025, we are celebrating 10 years of the Mike Seibert Radio podcast. And again, thanks for making me a part of your day and for being my friend. My name is Mike. This has been Mike Seibert Radio. And until next time, tell all are one. Make good choices. Mike Seibert Radio is recorded in Seattle, Washington. Our original theme song is written and performed by Lucia Fasano. Get her music on all streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music, and check out her Instagram at Lucia_Fasano. Our closing theme is A Nice Place to Visit by These Young Fools, used with permission from Michael Geissler. Check out Michael's website, bytourmusic.com, for more music like it. Special thanks to Andy Lita for our logos and graphic design. He is at GoGoAndyRobo. Become a Mike Cybertronian and join the MSRP Friends and Fans Facebook group. And you can follow me on social media at Mike Seibert Radio on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And check out my YouTube channel for even more videos, and subscribe so you never miss a show, and don't miss Two Mikes, Two Furious animated Transformers. Want to be a guest on the show? Send me an email, MikeSeibertRadio@gmail.com.